Hello everyone, Brett the Comic Novice here, and today I'm going to be looking at an article that I came across a couple days ago and just felt compelled to share my thoughts on them. Novice as they may be, I feel as though it is very important. Now, just to preface this video, I'm going to say I have been a comic book collector reader for about 3 years now. I started doing this about 2019 when I was suffering from depression, losing interest in all hobbies, which, if you know what signs those are, giving away personal belongings and stuff like that. And so I was spiraling out of control, and I needed something to look forward to. And I found that in comics. Now, you could say modern comics might not be that good. And I will tell you, I think it is a double-edged sword when it comes to that. And I'll give you my thoughts and opinions regarding that. So without further ado, the article is from cbear.com, and it is the 10 best things about modern comics. And I both agree and disagree with this at the same time. We start off with the first part, which is modern comics have representative writers. Now, I will tell you, as a school teacher, I teach elementary school students how to write. I know more about their background than the brief Twitter synopsis that many writers share and cry about the entire time. And why would I, as an educator, basically pass a student who is not doing well just because of I know their background? No, what I would do is I would help them and try to help improve their writing and overall educational abilities. If you are just being hired specifically because you tick a certain box or multiple boxes or whatever, but you're not any good, I'm sorry, you don't deserve a job. Harsh as that might be, that is my personal opinion. I think that people who are good at something deserve to succeed, be paid well. If you are not good, I'm sorry, you're no longer welcome here. How I feel as though writing should be, not only in comics, but for Hollywood as well, too, this is TV and movies, is I don't care who wrote it. Just give a script A, writer for, title A, same title, writer B. You don't need to know their pronouns, what their sexual orientation is. All you need to do is be able to read it. And you know what? At the end of the day, the person who gets the job, the person who should be continue to be hired and rehired is the one with the better script. So number 9 is modern comics are representational. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with representational, but here's the thing. If the only thing that you can say positively about the character, or the only thing that you know about them is that they are in some sort of category, that is not a good character. That is basically a bio. Like, you're more than just, who you like romantically. You're more than, I don't know. That is just my opinion. And, in all honesty, I just barely watched the HBO Max series on the Milestone Comics from the 90s. You know what? They found an audience. And I feel as though you need to create characters that are interesting, that are new, that are novel. You don't need to have another, Superman, another Spider-Man, and 17 Spider-Man or whatever to get the representation. I think that is way too much for our modern day. I think, simplicity, new, novel. That's the whole thing. We'll get to nuance in a second. Is modern comics are funny. Okay, if you're constantly giving me dad joke humor, I don't want dad joke humor. If the humor is well-timed and paced and earned, or you have a character that is just known for bad jokes, that is perfectly fine. But to just constantly throw dad joke humor in everything, I don't think whenever I hear a dad joke, I cringe. It is cringeworthy. If you read it in a comic book, you paid money for somebody to tell you that dad joke. No. Sorry, not interesting. The next one, modern comics are subtle. Now, here's the funny thing about this is this picture in this article uses, I'm going to assume, because I've been reading some of the Batman and Batman Detective comics from the 80s, I'm going to say that this is like from the 80s or maybe early 90s. And I'm sorry if the best way that you can, argue that modern comics are subtle is to use an example almost 40 years old. I'm sorry. No. You've just lost your battle right there. The next one, number 6, modern comics aren't all superheroes. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with this. But here's the deal. I think this is what the trade-off needs to be. Yeah, you can have your non-superhero comic books, and you know what? You can take all of these things, the other 9 things on this list, and ad nauseum, do all of them to the nth degree. But you know what? You have that as your independent project. You have that as your Kickstarter. You have that as your creator-owned type thing. And you know what? If people buy it, then good for you. But you know what? Sadly, and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but most of the time when people think of comics, they don't think of the indie comics series. They think of the Capes and Cowls series. And if that's what you're trying to do, if you're trying to do all of these other 9 things and cram them into a Capes and Cowls thing, I'm sorry, like you should not be writing there. You should have your own creator own thing. And if you can make, 6 figures from that, hats off to you. I applaud that. But you know what? Don't be doing the rest of the 9 things to the nth degree just so that you can pat yourself on the back and tell yourself that you are a good person. And also challenge anybody who hates what has come up in those comics as being bigoted or whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me. Number 5, modern comics makes for nuance. Now, here's a problem with nuance, is people want to say it's nuance, but it actually is not. I feel as though sometimes we use the word nuance to just say, like, this is my take on certain thing. And you know what? If it works, it works. But you know what? If it doesn't work, you can't just say, well, it's nuance or whatever. Here's the thing. Here's the deal. You know what? Your idea could be nuance, but you know what? You might not be appreciated in your own time. This might be the bringing up baby from the 1940s, that Lost, that was like the joke of the Hollywood movie thing, and now it is considered a classic. You know what? This could be your Evil Dead masterpiece that has a niche audience and then suddenly kind of came into its own and became kind of more pop culture. But you know what? If it never happens, it was never good to begin in the first place, and it wasn't nuance. It was just bad. Number 4, modern comics features impressive, engaging artwork. Now, here's the trade-off with this one. Yes, modern artwork is very interesting. But you know what? With artwork is very subjective, and people like what they like, and they don't like what they don't like. Number 3 is now they're more readily accessible, which is nice because, again, back in the day, if you missed something, I remember the first thing that I kind of tried to get into, but I was overweight. I was a Star Trek fan, a Star Wars fan, or a Doctor Who fan before it was popular and part of pop culture. I couldn't have another thing against me. One of the first things that I was collecting was the Nightfall series for Batman and Detective Comics. And I went every single day to my local 7-Eleven to make sure that I didn't miss the next thing, because I did miss one of the ranges, and I found a comic book shop and it cost me probably about $12, which was huge for me, to pick up one of the issues in the Nightfall range that I missed. So they're more readily accessible, which is great. You can miss certain things. If you want it physically, which I generally do, if you miss one, you can at least pick it up on eBay, even though they're generally held hostage for a much higher price. I will say that is a great part about the modern comics culture. Modern comics are interconnective, which is number two, which I think it's funny because I was in my local comic book store and somebody started arguing with me regarding my picking up of DC comics because it's too interconnective. And I find that, that is what speaks to me. I like, interconnectiveness. I like thinking about this and this on certain levels. That is my thing. And I think that's probably why I gravitate there more towards there than I do Marvel. And maybe I'm speaking out of my butt because I don't know, but at least to me, Marvel is very kind of general one universe. There is a couple of alternate things, obviously Spider-Verse, obviously, at least with the current multiverse of madness or whatever, there's that. But, I think it just depends on what you want. And well, because like, what is it? There's like now that whole Spawn universe that is going on currently too. So I guess it just depends on what you like. If you just like standalone stuff, or if you like to add layers on certain things. But then that's been a thing for quite some time. And I think this article is using the 80s as modern comics, which I guess you can because it backs it up. And finally, the last one is modern comics are part of a larger legacy. And here's the deal. Like it gives you this, Superman 1 cover and the Superman Son of Kal-El cover, and basically saying, yeah, it represents legacy. No, you just copied the same cover. I've read the Superman 1 because they did a facsimile edition of it. And I've also read Superman Son of Kal-El. And the only thing that they have in common is the cover. You have what, a lot of people love is Wally West. And I believe they killed him off at one point in time, which is considered a legacy character. The Dark Crisis was a, crisis focusing on the non-main superheroes, the legacy characters, the Nightwings of every single thing, whether you like it or not. And it was just meh, okay for me. I'm glad that I only bought I didn't buy any of the tie-ins. Yeah, anyway, that being said, I think this is a fun article. I do enjoy comics. I think that it brings up some good points. I also think that it is wrong on certain points also. What are your thoughts? Am I wrong? Am I correct? Did I kind of get it right? Whatever. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, subscribe, whatever you'd like to do. And until next time, I will see you in the dollar bin.